This is Ready, Set, Reiki, a podcast about Reiki, the universal energy life force, from the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, welcoming all systems, all lineages, and all levels. Reiki is a journey and not a destination. And on this Ready, Set, Reiki journey, we refer to ourselves as guides rather than hosts, as we too are traveling, supporting each other, and learning on this Reiki journey as well. And with that said, I am your guide, Tracy C. Wright. Joining me on my journey today is Lynne McMahan. Now, after decades in education and her years in the business world, she established Enlight and Reiki in 2014 after practicing in Portland, Oregon. In 2013, moving to Prescott, Arizona for a year. These transition years led her to her forever home in Santa Fe, New Mexico in 2015. She has been building her Reiki and animal communication practice now for nearly a decade. During these past 12 years, she has focused on professionally developing her skills as a practitioner, communicator, and teacher. Lynn, welcome to Ready, Set, Reiki.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for being my guide.
Wonderful. Well, let's begin the journey here. So you have a very wonderful little bio on your webpage that I thought perhaps you can say in your own words to our listeners. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, boy. Well, I went through the questions and did some thinking about it because I'm a very present person and rarely go backwards and think about all of the things that I've been a part of or done. And I thought I would actually share the background of my familial background, which is that I'm from a family of educators. My dad was also, besides being a high school counselor in his later years, was a Dr. Doolittle. And I have a picture that guides me with my animal Reiki and my animal communication practice with him as a teenager, holding his pet skunk, Jimmy, and also having the cat nearby and his little nephew. He was very much a lover of animals, both wild and domestic, and children and students. So that I got his genes from. And then my mom was also a devoted educator. She was also a super volunteer and believed strongly in service to community. They both did. And so that has served me well in my whole life as being a servant to helping others and being a support with making this world a better place. My mom got to experience my Reiki treatments and my Reiki practice. My dad had passed before I became a Reiki practitioner, and she loved it. She didn't understand it. She thought, I don't know what this is or what you do, even though I explained it many, many times. She said, I just know that it works, and I love you for doing this for me. So, and I was with her when she passed last September, and was holding her in Reiki meditation for the entire day that she was in that process. As you said, I've been an educator for decades, both as a teacher and in public schools as an administrator. And I've been an education consultant and trainer for a couple of decades now, was a higher education professor. And all the while, I knew that there would be something for me when I decided to retire, which has been, I haven't been very good at retirement. I'll put it to you that way. And so the first time I tried to retire from higher education, I had visited my partner in Santa Fe because he was taking care of his elderly father in another state and was driving through Santa Fe. So I drove back with him. And that was when I rediscovered Reiki, because I had had Reiki treatments in the 90s for some hospital visits and things like that. And so now I am just continuing on that journey and always practicing and interacting and being in love and light. So I don't know if that's what I wrote on my bio, but that's what is coming out of me at this present moment.
Wonderful, wonderful. And first of all, I'm so sorry for the loss of your mother. It's so, challenging, to lose a parent, and Reiki really does help, doesn't it? To kind of, soften the sting a little bit, as I say.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yes.
So when did Reiki come into your life? Did you find Reiki or did it find you?
That's a really good question. It's funny. I was a classroom teacher back in the early 90s. And one of my colleagues, I think she taught third grade, I taught fifth grade. She took Reiki. And we had a little trio, a friendship trio between her and a sixth grade teacher and myself. And so we would go do little camping trips and things like that. And she really turned me on to it and shared with us just the power of that spiritual process and energy. And then when I had to have a couple of surgeries, the hospital where I was having my surgeries had a clinic in the hospital of Reiki practitioners. And so I signed up for it. I said, oh, absolutely. I want Reiki before and after. So wonderful, wonderful, sweet people that gave me Reiki before each surgery and really helped. I think it helps on so many levels. My own acceptance of this surgery, and also helping the doctors and the people that were all part of the process. And it was just really fabulous. And so that was in the back of my head and my experience until I was telling you that my partner Steve was coming back through Santa Fe, and I flew into Albuquerque to be with him to drive home to where we lived at that time, which was Oregon. And I was at Sprouts. I don't know if you have Sprouts in,
We and
do. Right at the front counter, where they put all the magazines, was this magazine that said Reiki, big bold letters, right? And there was this little woman, this small woman, and a giant draft horse that she was walking. And so I bought the magazine and I read it from cover to cover on our journey. And I think it was about Idaho when I turned to Steve and I said, I know what my next thing is. I am going to become a Reiki practitioner. And he said, of course you are. Because he already probably knew that. He's very intuitive himself. And he had taken Reiki in the 90s. So he was very familiar with it. So that was the first series of synchronistic events. And when I came back, I was getting ready to transition from my first retirement from higher ed. And I told some of my dear sweet friends that I was going to learn Reiki and practice Reiki. And this was my next thing. I didn't want to go back to medical school or veterinary school or anything like that, which I did have an interest in. And one of my friends, whose husband had just passed recently at that time, had bought level 1 and level 2 Reiki classes from a Portland practitioner, Colleen Benelli, and said, I'm gifting these to you. I'm not ready to do this, but I know you are. And so she gifted me those 2 classes. So that was the first, wonderful gift and indicator that I needed to move forward with this. And then the second one was a friend of mine who cared for her elderly father during his last years. And she had bought a full-on a massage table, beautiful big table, and linens for him to have treatment, some kind of treatment during his elderly years. And she said, I don't know what to do with this, so I'm gifting this to you. Wow. And, it's just a series of synchronistic opportunities. My acupuncturist at the time said, I would love for you to do Reiki here. let's get a schedule going. And she didn't charge me rent or anything, but she gave me clients, and she became a client, and her teenage son became a client. And she really helped me take it to that next step, which was to practice and to be with clients and get to know them. And I worked on her animals and all of that. So that's really how it came into my life. And it's been growing and nurturing and ebbing and flowing, as we talked about earlier.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. What a beautiful journey it seems to be, right? Or have been. So wonderful.
Pretty much so.
So what system of Reiki did you study?
Well, that question was really interesting because I've studied a few. Robin Benelli is her daughter. So Colleen Benelli was my master teacher for both level 1 and 2. And I took level 1 in like the spring, and then I didn't take level 2 until the fall. I really wanted to sit with it for a bit. And she is from the ICRT, the International Center for Reiki Training. She's one of their licensed teachers. So that is a very long list of background, because William Rand, who's the founder of that, he has done so many trainings, both the Japanese style and the Western style, and learned under one of Mrs. Takata's masters, and also learned under her granddaughter's masters. And so he really has a very broad background. And through his own process of development as a Reiki practitioner, he's developed a couple of systems. One of them was the Yusui Tibetan tradition. I did not learn that, but I did learn the Karuna Reiki, and then he's developed a new system with the Holy Fire Reiki, and that's like in its third iteration. And so I would say I'm more eclectic. I take all of that plus my own processes into consideration. I do, when I teach, share that lineage and make sure that my students understand that lineage. And so that's my system. And I've taught many students who've been from other traditions, and how I approach that is basically, it's all Reiki. It's all beautiful. It's all perfect. And there's no right or wrong system. And there isn't any wrong. You cannot harm with Reiki. We know that. But the best thing you can do is let Reiki unfold you, help you mature into the Reiki practice.
Very good. So what is a common misconception about Reiki?
Well, I liked this question, and I would say, rather than a misconception, I think it's more of a lack of understanding and trust. And it's really important. I tell my students this all the time, to trust the process. You don't have to know the quantum physics part of this. All you have to know is that everything is energy. And so even the chairs that we're sitting in, or the computer that's in front of us, or, the animal that gives us loves and kisses every day, and your husbands or your children or your partners, they're all Reiki energy. And so if you accept that and honor that and work from that premise, then you will understand Reiki. And the more you practice, the more understanding will come to you. That's really very simple. It just is. And it's beautiful, and it's miraculous. And it's all of those things that we as practitioners know that it is.
Very good. What do you find is a misconception or a lack of understanding with animal communication?
That was interesting because I just got that question this morning. It didn't come in some of your earlier emails, and I thought, oh boy, that's going to be a good one. And I think I would say the biggest misunderstanding is that humans often think they're a hierarchical sentient being to animals. And they've kind of layered the system of sentient beings from, the bugs and the ants and to the four-legged domestics and the two-legged domestics and the wild ones. And the truth of the matter is their intelligence is more broad, more intuitive, more pure and clear. They don't have a lot of baggage that comes in with them. Even animals that have anxiety, they have such a pure presence of being and intelligence that I would say that's the biggest misunderstanding, that we are superior or we know more than any other creature on this earth. And I have learned more from animals and my relationship with them when I listen deeply and am able to connect with them than any other learning I've had. And you saw I have a few degrees and lots of background and blah 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 blah. But my animals that I work with, my wild ones and my domestics, are truly my biggest and greatest teachers.
Beautiful. So what do you wish your younger self knew about Reiki?
That was another tough question because I'm turning 70 in a few months, and I don't, I'm sure I did when I was younger, my 40s and 50s and all that good stuff, maybe even 30s, but I don't do that now. I don't go back and say, what could I have done differently? What if I had followed this path rather than this path, or married this person rather than this person, all those good things. Now I just think every single experience and event that has happened in my life, every relationship, has led me to the person I am today. I'm very blessed with a wonderful family and who is very loving and compassionate. But, I've had my trials and tribulations over the last almost 70 years. But all of them have been a lesson in and a gift in being the person that I am today. And I wouldn't change a thing. Now, I might not have been the crazy kid that kept getting into accidents when I was younger. Had I been a little bit more grounded in Reiki, that would have been helpful. I have a few bumps and bruises and things like that. And I learned from those too. And they, some of them still remind me of the lessons that I've learned. And so it's really just been a blessing to be on this earth and be a part of everything that I'm involved in.
So when it's time for your energetic tune-up, what qualities do you look for in a Reiki practitioner?
Well, I love that question too. I am very blessed with this community mind. Like, I have so many different communities that I belong to. And I have a community of Reiki practitioners, former students, former teachers, practitioners in animal Reiki and communication, practitioners in human Reiki, practitioners who do Reiki and other practices. And so they're the qualities that I think we all have in common are love, compassion, and wanting the best out of for their clients and their friends and their family and their colleagues. And I have specific practitioners for specific parts of my body as it ages. But all of them have such beautiful Reiki energy. Even if they're not a certified Reiki practitioner, they have Reiki. Mm-hmm. And then my Reiki just automatically ties into their Reiki. And so there's just this beautiful experience of healing. And, I also have a two-legged and a four-legged at home that practice Reiki with me and for me all the time. So love, compassion, and really just being your pure self, letting that be. So.
Wonderful. So what advice would you give someone who is just entering this profession of a Reiki master and even a animal communicator?
That was a great question too, and one that I think fits well with so many different parts of our life, right? If you become an educator, it goes for that too. And I would say, and when I was in teacher training, I would tell my teachers this too, for the public education or private education. I would say you have to know yourself well, and it takes work, it takes consistency, and it takes time. And when you're in that process of learning yourself well, and with that becomes forgiveness and grace and gratitude, then you can be a wonderful practitioner of any type. Reiki, you can be a teacher, you can do anything you want, but you have to do the work. And it is a constant process. I mean, as my dad used to say, you're in this job of learning yourself and being your best self until you're not here anymore. And then you're moving on to greater and wonderful things. And so I even in my coaching and my mentoring, that's what I say. I say you have to learn yourself well. So how can I help you with that process? What would be a gift to you and an opportunity for you to learn yourself well? And when you can do that, then you can share with your students, whether they're littles or bigs, how to learn about themselves well and to really understand their gifts and the things that they're working on, and honor and appreciate the person that you are.
Thank you. So what books do you recommend?
Well, I only came up with two, I'm so sorry to say, but I know there are more because I'm a book hound. But I am teaching a student right now who came from a different tradition. And I wanted her to think about the roots of Reiki. And so this little book, I think, is a really helpful book. It's by Hiroshi Doi, and he is from the Gakkai tradition. And he really talks about the process of Reiki in that tradition and how Yusui came to the work and how the treatments evolved and that sort of thing. So I definitely recommend that book. And there's a revised edition, so get the revised editions. I don't know what the changes are, but just a saying. And then another person that I want to honor is Laurel Shantigaya, who has been passed for quite a while now, but I had a chance to meet her a few times, and I got to work with her husband and her stepson in Karuna Reiki. And I don't know, she was just such a lovely being that you can feel her presence in everything that she writes. And so the book on Karuna Reiki, even if you don't practice Karuna Reiki, which I really don't anymore, I just do the essence of it. It's such a beautifully written book, and it talks about the essence of your healing work as a practitioner and also as a human evolving. And so I definitely recommend those two books.
Thank you. So what other services do you offer? Do you offer classes, events, trainings?
Well, I do offer classes. I have evolved into an ask for class process. I may, I'll tell you a little bit about my next evolvement. If someone reaches out to me, I will, schedule a Reiki training, and then I'll invite others, or I'll have others invite others. And often it'll be a very small group. I prefer the small group because then we can really just dig deep. But I've done bigger classes. I mean, I certainly am not afraid of big trainings or things like that. I just feel like it's such an intimate practice that it's nice to have a small group that you can get to know. And so that's how I've been doing it for the last many years. And and I forgot the rest of the question. Oh, events. No events.
Events, classes, we covered it.
Those kinds of things. Well, I think I'll just add that I'm in the process of actually moving my brick and mortar practice to another location, and it won't probably be ready till the end of September or somewhere in September. And I've been in a part of a Reiki collective for the last, not a Reiki collective, a healing collective for the last 5 years, in a space that we designed 6 years ago. And so a few of us have kind of branched off and are starting this new collective. We have a couple of new partners, and we hope to have 2 classrooms, one for more active things from one of our practitioners, and then a classroom for sound healing and so on and so forth. And I will try to schedule in-person classes there. And we'll probably have some open house or something like that when that unfolds. So the other neat thing about this, I just have to say, is I am selecting an office space with my partner who does cranial sacral. And we're going to have an outside door. And in our previous space, I couldn't really bring animals in to do Reiki because there were so many humans that were allergic to animals. And so this way, I'll be able to bring in animals and do treatments in person, because I've had so many requests for that. And usually I try to go to their place, but if they're not directly in Santa Fe, it makes it a little awkward. So this I'm really excited about, and hope to, to have another option for my clients.
Where can we find you if we want to book a session? Do you offer online or in person? Do you have a website?
All 3 of those. So you can email me. My email address is enlighten, all one word, little letters, .reiki@gmail.com. I also have a website that I built, so who knows how good it is. enlightenreiki.com. And or they can text me, and on the website my number is on there. But yeah, just or email me, whatever works best for people. I'm happy to, and I do all of it. I do in person when you're here in Santa Fe. I've also traveled to other places and done Reiki. I also do a lot of distance. I have clients all over the world, and animal communication is often by distance because of the folks that contact me. And then animal Reiki, as I said, I've gone to my clients' homes, and also I will have hopefully this little option to offer as well.
Well, that ends the first part of our journey, and I'm going to continue to guide you into the next part of our journey, which is questions from social media and Reiki students. So here we go. Question number 1. How has your experience in the business world helped you navigate your Reiki business?
That was a very good question. And I think it goes back to the fact that everything I've done in my life seems to connect and support and help the things that I've done moving forward in my life. And, at the time that I've owned a couple of businesses. I have a couple of businesses right now, but in the 80s, I had a business, and I was getting my business BA in business management, and I worked on an MBA, and I was very businesslike. I really managed that world. And I would say what it's helped me is to think systematically. So when I design, when I vision, when I think about my Reiki business, I do that through the lens of what my experience is, and that has been helpful. I can do my own accounting. I had to learn how to do website design. I can design my own cards and all those good things. I'm not an artist, so you do have to find artists to do the artistic work. And it also helps me keep a steady thought process. Like, okay, how much do you need to put in right now as far as energy and time and space? And how much do you need to back off and allow and let go and have that come in? And I don't think I knew that when I was taking business classes, but I definitely have evolved to that now. So hopefully that's helpful.
Question number 2, as an animal communicator, in your experience, what do the animals want us to know?
This I loved. For a while, I was doing a column on Animal Speak in a really wonderful healing magazine, and so I pulled from that what they told me when I was writing a specific article that speaks to this. So these are the lessons they want us to know. Lessons. And these were shared by many of my animals, not just one or two. The ones that have experienced Reiki in that healing space and being listened to and being cared for as equitable sentient beings, they want their human companions to know this. Every single day, touch base with someone you love, unconditionally and without judgment. Find joy in all the little happenings throughout the day. Let's see where my other was. And I lost it. Oh, here's some more. Practice forgiveness, letting go, and trust. Show your gratitude and be the divine within. So, words of wisdom that I should be reading every day to myself, I'll tell you.
Sure. Good reminders. Thank you for sharing that and writing it. And our third question, I read on your website the different systems that you studied. Do you have a system of Reiki that works for you more than others? And if so, why?
That's a really good question. As I mentioned earlier, I've practiced different systems. And I would say in the last 2 or 3 years, right after COVID and we came back to practice in person, I simplified my practice. I use the 3 major Takata symbols, the original Takata symbols. I do use Holy Fire and the Master symbol at the end of a session. And I do a very open-ended mentoring session at the beginning. I wouldn't call it a mentoring session. I would call it more of a listening deeply session. And so, and all of us do this. We ask our clients why they're there and what they need and all of that sort of thing. But I probe probably a little deeper just to try to find, not for me to find, but for them to find what maybe the core is that is has really brought them here. They'll have one thing that they say at the front end, but once you get to know them a little bit better and build that relationship with them in those first 30 minutes or however, then things start opening up. And I think that often we need to do that to really help them reap the benefit of Reiki wisdom. Not that Reiki wisdom doesn't already know that coming in when they've guided them to this place, but because it's spoken out loud, and then we set that intention on the table, I think it just accelerates, if you will, the healing process. And so that's what I do. And then I close it out with making sure they're grounded and making sure that they're ready to take that next step out the door to re-enter the world. So it's simple. That's what I do.
Okay, very good. Well, that was our last question. And as we were talking, is there anything that you have forgotten or something you feel called to share with the listeners? You can take this time now to, the floor is yours.
Well, I loved that you told me that somebody asked about your journey, and I would love to know that journey when you are ready to share. Yeah. And I think that's it, really, that I want to share is that everybody has a story of life, you know, how they've gotten here and how they want to proceed forward or not, or how they want to be open to that proceeding forward. And storytelling is a beautiful art and often a lost art. And when we can provide opportunities for everyone, including animals, to share their story, I think we bring so much more love and light and connection to the world, because every story is beautiful and unique and needs to be told. That's what I would say.
Right. And that's why it's a journey.
That's why it's a journey. Exactly.
And sometimes you have four-legged friends on that journey as well, right?
Oh, so many. Thank goodness.
So many. Yes. Well, thank you, Lynn, for joining me on this journey today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to join me on Ready, Set, Reiki.
Thank you for inviting me. And thank you, all of you who are listening to this. Take care.
All right, my wonderful listeners, if you would like your question featured on the podcast, reach out at www.readysetreiki.com or check it out on social media. Also, check out Feather Sister Yoga and Reiki for a variety of Reiki sessions, Reiki trainings, and yoga. My name's Tracy Seawright, and this has been Ready, Set, Reiki.